All right, what's up, fantasy fans? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay. I'm pretty sure everyone on this channel caught my top 15 fantasy books of all time list that I made. It's like blew up. Thank you everyone for watching that. But in that video at number 15, I mentioned a book I hadn't even finished yet. And you clicked on this video, so you probably know the book I'm talking about is going to be Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. Think about all that the wind is and all that it does, where it goes, where it comes from. The wind knows everything, for it travels everywhere, and it's with us always. It endures, it feels, it speaks. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it rages. Give it a listen sometime, see what it tells you. We can't let our weaknesses limit our potential. We want to be defined by our strengths, not our shortcomings. The world makes of us what it will, and it doesn't give a damn about what we want. If we're lucky, we'll look back from our deathbeds and find our lives were lived for a purpose, but more often than not, all we'll see is a long list of missed opportunities. But now he finally had a friend, and that made all the difference in the world. So yeah, like I said, Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer, it was my number 15 spot on my list, even though it was unfinished. And is that a spot on the list I regret putting it at now that I am done? And I will say, no, this is an absolute bop of a book. I don't know if I would put it above 15 yet, because again, recency bias. The same reason I didn't put The Gallant as my number one romance in my top 10 romances. It was just too recent. That is why I will not put Dragon Mage higher than 15. I just don't want recency bias to kind of sway me, but right now this is looking higher than 15, but we'll keep it at 15 for now. So why did I think that this book, before even completing it, warranted a number 15 on my favorite fantasy stories of all time list? That is a hard question to answer because this book does so many things right. It feels like, in the beginning I said it felt a lot like Robin Hobb writing Bound and the Broken, and it did feel that way, but it also has flavorings of Michael J. Sullivan in there in the way he subverts fantasy tropes. He doesn't come across that he's trying to subvert these tropes, and he more comes across that he is just giving a very human exploration of how these tropes would go in real life, and inherently that's going to subvert some tropes. I thought that was really well done. I thought our two main characters were absolutely brilliant. Aram and Marcus, the two main characters of this book, but also Esmir. Esmir is another one. He's kind of like the mentor, the Gandalf figure of the book. He is awesome. These three characters, to me, are the three main characters, are absolutely insanely well written. I knew Aram within chapter 1, chapter 2, I knew he was going to be a new all-time favorite character, but I did not expect Marcus and Esmir to also be on that list. These three characters, I feel, really form a bond with one another. It's competing with Locke and Jean from Gentlemen Bastards. It's competing with Fitz, Night Eyes, and the Fool. It's competing with Nona Gray and her friends at the Sweet Mercy Convent. It's competing with all these books that have amazing, transcendent, best friend type relationships. And I want to touch on the characters a little bit. So the book opens up and we get Marcus and Aram. And Aram is neurodivergent. He is kind of on the autism spectrum. So this book opens up and there is this bard-like character that is coming to visit the town. And all the boys are like, oh my goodness, it's a bard. And they're ecstatic. They want to become this bard's apprentice. And we follow Aram. And all he wants to do is tie his knots, and he wants to be a sailor because he can tie knots all day. And he has this love for knots, this hyperfixation on knots. And, the other boys in the village call him a dullard. They call him a half-wit. And Marcus is the first one to really stand up for him and be like, no, he thinks differently. He doesn't think any worse than any of you. He's not dumb. The way his mind works is a little bit different. And the friendship we see between these two boys, one who is neurodivergent and one who comes from an abusive family, is absolutely brilliant. It is I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Their relationship is so beyond what I usually find in the fantasy genre. I wouldn't put it above Locke and John yet. I wouldn't put it above Fitz and the Fool, but I believe it deserves to be in that conversation. So let me touch up on some other aspects of this world. So I already mentioned that character work-wise, it reminds me of Robin Hobb. It reminds me of Michael J. Sullivan and its trope subversion. And some of the way the creatures in this book are the horse-like creatures. I forget what they're called. The Elysians, which are like these kind of equestrian type quadrupeds that are kind of like horses but kind of different. The way the Elysiums and the way the dragons are written reminded me a lot of Janie Wirtz's Paravian. So some of the world building elements and some of the magic of Janie Wirtz is sprinkled in there. And that's what I think I love about this book so much. I don't know what M.L. Spencer's inspirations were, but it reminds me of Janie. It reminds me of Robin Hobb. It reminds me of Ryan Cahill. It reminds me of Michael J. Sullivan. And that's not to say like, oh, it is lesser than those works. I am saying that it is able to do what all these authors do so well, and it's able to combine all these elements and still juggle so much that's going on. And I know that this is book 1 in the Rivenworld saga now, but it was originally written to be a standalone, and it feels like a standalone. You will get a satisfying beginning, middle, and end to this story. There's enough open to where a book 2, I feel, is justified. So I don't think people that are like, oh no, they should have stopped at book 1. I'm glad she's continuing the series. I think M.L. Spencer has plenty of ground yet to tread in this book, but I think that this is just an absolute masterpiece of a book. It feels like I read a trilogy. Feels like I read a trilogy of books in this one book. Years pass and we follow these boys' relationship. We follow these boys' relationship with their dragons, with Esmir, with other boys their age. Spoiler alert, there's dragons in Dragon Mage. But we follow these relationships through years and years and years. And sometimes M.L. Spencer will span years in a sentence. And sometimes a whole chapter will be just a few minutes. You know, she really hones into what she needs to hone in on, but she's able to tell this story that spans years, and she's able to do it so well, and every character's relationship with everyone is so perfectly encapsulated in her writing. I'm going to get to one negative I have for this book, and it's not even a negative for the book, it's a negative for the audiobook. I loved the audiobook. It really enriched the experience for 90% of this book, and I will give the audiobook 5 stars. I just think that there was a choice that the audio narrator did, and that was giving Khalees a French accent. Did not work well for me. It made Khalees kind of like my least favorite character just because of that accent. Just because no one else, I get that she's from a different part of the world. She's the only one in the book that had that accent. I think the narrator is great. I think he is a talent. I don't know whose decision it was to do the French accent. I don't think it was a bad idea. I just think that the French accent didn't fit tonally with what was going on. And I understand it's an audiobook, it's not a film, but I think an accent coach or something. I'm not saying that it broke the immersion for me. I'm just saying that's one slight negative I have. I still absolutely adore the audiobook narrator. I applaud him for the work he did, and I very much enjoyed the book. I will put his name down in the little bar below. I really hate talking about negatives I have for books, but I will say that that is one thing as a reviewer I am called upon to give my honest opinions of things, and I do think the French accent did not land for me, but for others it might. I thought his delivery of Aram and